Is Star Wars being diluted by Disney? Not my words, but the words of Qui-Gon Jinn himself, Liam Neeson. Now, this is it's going to be an interesting one. I'm not even going to lie, because it's a single sentence that Liam has uttered out of his mouth. It's been quoted, and it's really just that there in the actual headline. You're diluting the whole thing. I'm going to try and give my opinion on it, whether he's telling the truth or not, because I'm kind of conflicted. I half agree with him, but I also kind of disagree. Incidentally, look at this guy. Is this guy just not winning at life or what? Look at the hair. Barely a line in his face, and he's a good age. He really is doing well. He was speaking with Conan O'Brien, Needs a Friend. I love that podcast, incidentally. I love Conan. What a guy. You speak about charismatic. Conan, your man. What a run he had. Absolutely tremendous talk show presenter, host, and now podcaster. As I says, it was short and sweet. There's so many movies and spin-offs now. I think, no, you're diluting the whole thing. I think my personal thing. I mean, I've read that and I've not even get the actual... I get the fucking quote up. Let's bring it up there. There you go. Proof that he did say it. Liam did say these words, I think. Is he right? I'm conflicted because I think he is in a way. Because I think back to my childhood, growing up in the 90s as a young bairn, as we like to say here. Well, I don't, but some people do. As a young kid, with just the original trilogy being a thing, it being a distant memory at that point, people were yearning for more Star Wars. But it was special, man. It was cinematic history, that original trilogy. And even the sort of promotional stuff, the toys and things like that, the merchandising, it had an aura about it. You'd walk into a toy store, I think a Toys R Us in the 90s when I was a kid, and you'd see Star Wars merchandise, you'd see the dolls, the figurines, whatever you want to call them, the ships, and you were awestruck because there wasn't a huge amount of it floating about. I've still got in the fucking cupboard somewhere the Stormtrooper Action Man sort of shit. I kept it. I don't know why. It's battered and bruised and missing parts, but it was Han Solo and Luke Skywalker in the Stormtrooper suits from A New Hope when they go to save obviously Princess Leia. And I was obsessed with those fucking dolls, man. The actual box. I'd go into the shop and just look at it in awe. That's what Star Wars was like 30 years ago. It was special. It had an aura about it, the brand. You then go to the actual prequel trilogy and it still maintained an aura to an extent, but it was diluted slightly at that point. As you can imagine, 3 movies turn into 6 movies. There's more of it. It loses its concentration, in this case, the aura, just the standard that the movies were at. It's diluted somewhat. There was too much merchandising going on. That was the start of it. George actually started this shite 20 odd years ago. You could argue he started it 40 years ago with the originals. So even at that point, it was starting to get diluted. And then we go to the Disney era of Star Wars. And you've got even more fucking movies coming out. And now we've got TV shows coming out every 6 months. And not all of them are of a high standard. Certainly most of them nowhere near the standard of the original trilogy. Although I maintain Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. And that was Disney. So, is he right? I think it is being diluted. The brand is certainly diluted. It's nowhere near what it was 30, 40 years ago. It's not like it was when I was a kid and there was an aura around the merchandising and the actual name of Star Wars. Now it's just a run-of-the-mill fucking franchise. And you can get the toys everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Even in cheap, raggedy-arse fucking shops, you'll see Star Wars merchandising. That wasn't the case back in my day. In terms of the actual creative output, I would say it's most certainly been diluted. But I'd argue that George Lucas started this process with The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones 20 odd years ago. So it's certainly not a Disney only problem. They did not create this issue. But Star Wars has almost certainly been diluted. When you think of the actual TV side of things, that's where I slightly deviate from Liam Neeson. I think the movies are the big problem. You've churned out those sequel trilogy movies and they are fucking terrible. The acting is terrible. The story is terrible. Shat on the top of the legacy characters. And you've not really brought the story much further forward. You've just regurgitated everything that came in the previous movies to a lower standard. But the TV is where I would definitely deviate, because some of the best Star Wars stuff we've seen has came in these TV shows. Some of the best acting we've seen in Star Wars ever came in Andor, with Luthen, obviously Stellan Skarsgård delivering unbelievable monologues, Andy Serkis, Diego Luna, some tremendous acting in that TV show, tremendous writing, complicated, dense Star Wars storytelling. Look, we've never seen it before. Multiple echelons of the rebellion being shown. That's some of the highest caliber Star Wars content we've ever seen. And I'm enjoying Ahsoka just now, and in actual fact it's Wednesday, so I'm going to watch Ahsoka episode 3 after this. Some of the Star Wars TV content has been fucking top tier, and I actually think that's the future for Star Wars. Long form storytelling on high caliber TV shows. So it has been diluted, but not by the TV, and it's not a Disney only problem. What are your thoughts on Rebel Moon? I'm really looking forward to it, man. I think it looks interesting. It used to be a Star Wars pitch. I think Zack Snyder took it to Lucasfilm Disney. They rejected it. He wanted to make a Star Wars movie. I think it looks interesting. It looks different. There's not enough new sci-fi stuff being broached these days. We're really getting back and adapting stories from 30, 40 years ago. Obviously, Frank Herbert's Dune is top tier, but it's based on a novel. It's out there. We're not seeing a lot of brilliant sci-fi movies being made, least of all on the sort of ambitious scale that Zack Snyder's doing with Rebel Moon. I think it looks fucking decent. Some of the CG though, the visuals, not so great for me. There's some issues with it. You can tell it's been made in Netflix. It's just kind of crummy. But the actual story, the mythology, the sort of world building, it looks top tier, and it's got the stylistic goodness of Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's a brilliant director. He's got a really unique style, and you can see it. We were talking about him last night. Which one is your favourite, the Dark Knight or the Batman? Oh, I love the two of them. But the Dark Knight. It's got to be the Dark Knight, hasn't it? Batman's brilliant. Really, really enjoyed it. But the Dark Knight for me is in contention for being one of the greatest superhero movies, comic book movies ever made. I've changed that there because Batman's not a superhero. He's not. He's a human with unbelievable technology at his disposal. He's just a human. He's not a superhero. There's nothing super about him. He's just a fucking insanely rich guy. But the Dark Knight, just Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, Gary Oldman, the energy, the atmosphere, the pacing, the score, it's just unbelievable. And I forgot your man as well, played Harvey Dent. Just an incredible, one of the greatest movies ever made for me. So the Dark Knight would be the answer to that. But I love the Batman too. I really do. But yeah, Star Wars. Yeah, it's been diluted, but not by Disney. Well, it has, but George Lucas started it.